Hi, and welcome everybody to the multi-record table webinar. You may have joined us earlier a couple months ago for the multi-record template webinar. This webinar is going to be slightly different because we're not going to do a deep dive into template creation, although we will touch on it. This is really a focus on creating new multi-record tables and also a few considerations as to how they behave on your SAM site and a little sheet that you can use as a workaround for those restraints that you might have run into on reports or templates. So let's get started. So today we're going to talk about what multi-record tables are for and how you can think about them in your SAM site as you're creating tables or using them. A few of their unique behaviors, like I mentioned, on tables and reports and templates. And then we're going to talk about setup. So we're going to create a new multi-record table. I'm going to show you the standard form setup, which we touched on during our last webinar. And then I'm going to talk about creating a sibling latest table, which is going to be a workaround for some of those restrictions on reports. So when I first started working here, I don't know why, but I had a really hard time wrapping my brain around multi-record tables and what they are for and why they were different. So this is the way that I think about it. Regular tables, or what we call one-to-one tables, are sort of like this individual manila file folder. It's pretty small. You would just collect information about one thing. It's not going to have multiple entries. So you can think of this like the hair color and eye color of an adoptive family. It's probably not going to have multiple entries for those things. Whereas a one-to-many or multi-record table is more like this accordion file. You're collecting many entries, but they're all about one subject. So think about this like persons in home. There could be many people in the home. They're all lumped together under that persons in home multi-record table. So this sort of thinking has helped me when I'm deciding whether or not a new table needs to be one-to-many or one-to-one. And when you are looking at your own SAM tables under settings, tables, and fields, you see this list of tables, and there's this little squiggly mark here. That squiggly mark means those are not multi-record tables. So the interesting thing that we can take away from that is that most of the tables in your SAM site are multi-record tables. You usually are collecting multiple entries for information. If we look at any of these examples, yes, we know that families can have more than one case. They can have more than one adoption per case. Certainly multiple adoption reports under each adoption. They often have multiple home studies if one home study expires. So you are using and you're already familiar with multi-record tables even if you didn't know it. Let's talk a little bit about how multi-record tables work in your SAM site and some issues that you might run into as you're trying to use them. So on reports, I always think of SAM as this poor intern who's having to run back and forth to the file room, and when you're creating a report, you just can't put too much stuff on it or SAM will become confused. The reason is you are limited to one multi-record table on reports, and this is due to the relationship between the main entity and the multi-record table. So I kind of visualize it like this. Here's our main entity, and then the multi-record table is spitting out rows and rows and rows of data that all relate back to that main entity. So it could be a child. Here's all the placements, placement 1, 2, 3. On a report, it starts to get really jumbled and messy if you were to try to add another multi-record table on top of that one. It wouldn't even make a whole lot of logical sense. Like, here's all the placements, and here's all their allergies. It just doesn't work for the way that SAM spits out reports in that sort of Excel format. So the cheat, which I'm going to talk about as we're building our new table, is to use this latest record table, which, as the name suggests, pulls the latest record from that table and allows you to use it on reports, use it on templates, and you can specify how you determine what is or is not the latest record. So I'm going to show you how to do that towards the end here. On templates, it's also a little bit complicated. So if you create a multi-record template, which, as I mentioned, we're not going to dive into today just because we've done another webinar about those, so I'll provide that link. When you make a template based off of multi-record, you can use that template directly from one multi-records detail page. So over here on the side, I've got print a donation template. Donations are multi-records because a donor can donate multiple times. If you create a template based on donations, you'd actually have to go to the details of one donation. And from there on the sidebar, you see options to use multi-record templates. If you create a template based off a child's placement or family's adoptive preferences, you would see the option to use templates on the sidebar of the individual record. You could insert multi-record templates onto a main template, which I'll show you in a sec what that looks like. So from the template builder, here in the middle image, you see an option to insert a multi-record section. So you can pop it into a template, and you actually can insert multiple multi-record templates onto one template. If you're doing a really big project like a child profile or a discharge report or anything to do where you have to show a lot of information, that's an option that you can use. And then finally, you can use a template report to show multi-records. And this is my favorite because I think it's easiest. I also think it looks very clean. But the downside is that you can't customize the appearance of the records. So let me show you the difference here, just while we're talking about differences. This is a template with a template report. And the report is just a report I made in Report Builder talking about post-adoption reports. So Sam's just spitting them all out here as a nicely lined little report. But if you wanted it to look different, you would have to create a multi-record template, which would let you have a different design. Like this is the same idea, it's talking about post-adoption reports, but you can see the formatting is just slightly different. Some people really prefer it. They think it looks friendlier. It's kind of up to you. So at the end, when I post this on our blog, I'll give you some links that talk about these two options if you want to explore adding multi-record templates to your tables. Templates. Blah. Okay. Let's just dive in and create a new multi-record table. I'll walk you through that process, and then I'll show you some other tricks you can use. So let me launch this here. Here I'm on my test site. I'm going to start by creating a new table. So I'll go to Settings, go to Tables and Fields, and I'm going to create a new table. So for that, I've got to go over to Advanced Options. Of course, you'd have to be an admin to see these options. And I will create a new table. So Sam's going to ask you where you want the new table to live. In my example, I've decided to make a table for external referrals for families. Maybe I'm referring them to a third-party home study provider or some sort of training that they could benefit from, just a service that my agency doesn't provide. And in my agency's example, they could have multiple referrals per case. So I'm going to open up Family, and I'll click on Case because that's where I want my new table to live. We'll call this Referrals. And then it's a little bit confusing because I have developer options here. Oh, okay. Got a little notification. So you want to make sure this has multiple records per parent table. That's making a new multi-record table. So that's what we're going to click here. And I'll hit Save. And then I'm taken to this blank table, except that, Sam always spits out all these automatically created fields that are used for modification history. It doesn't have anything on it right now, and it doesn't necessarily have to, but for the sake of our example, I'll create at least one field so we can see it. We'll just make a very simple date field. Date only. All right, so I have this table. You would probably want to create more fields. I think it's easier to create a bunch of fields from this screen rather than doing it on a form, but that's just my preference. So let's say that we had finished our multi-record table and now we wanted to use it. So it's got to live on a form, and you could certainly go to Form Customizer and start from scratch and make your own sub-form or container form. that sort of stuff just kind of boggles my mind, and you have to interlink the subform to the add edit form. It's just too much to keep straight. So luckily we have a cheat, which I'm sure most of you know about, but if you don't, hopefully this will make your life easier, which is that if you go to advanced options, really advanced options, you have some options here to make your life easier. The one that I'm talking about is the multi-record standard form setup. So when we click on this, Sam's going to go through the process of making our add edit form, our overview form, and a container form. It's going to do this for me. So right away, it's going to ask you what you want to call the base name. Referrals is fine. Then it's going to ask, do you want to mirror the overview and the details? Usually you don't, because the idea is that the details form will have more details than the overview. But for this exercise, I'm going to say yes for now, and then I'll show you how to change your mind later. And then it's going to ask if you want to link it. This is, if you know already, oftentimes you're linking from a cover page, so you can go ahead and add a link there to your new form from the cover page. And then when you hit save, sometimes it takes a while because Sam's having to create 3 forms. Well, today it did it very quickly. So it takes you to the add edit details form, which is also going to be the same layout as our overview because I checked that mirror, add, edit, and overview form. So I'll add a field here, my date field. I guess I want to add one more field just to show you how you can make them look different. So I'll create a new field. We'll call this service. Service we're referring them to. Hit save. All right, so from here, it can be a little bit confusing because you sort of have to navigate around to make the form look as you want to. So I like to use these links that are here at the top, which will take me to the other forms that Sam has made for me. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the overview form. And you'll see this yellow, like kind of warning. It's not really a warning at the top. It's letting you know, hey, you said you wanted to mirror the add edit details form and this overview form. But if you decide that you don't want that, you can totally unlink the form. You're not going to break anything. It's just going to let you give it a different layout than the add edit details. So I'm going to click that. Oop. There we go. So now I've got my own overview. I would probably be removing fields. I don't have that many fields this exercise, just to kind of give it that really clean look. And then jumping around again, you can go to the top and go to your container form. So the container form lives one level above your multi-record form. It's kind of that bridge between the main entity and this new multi-record table you've created. All that really means for our purposes is that we can add fields that are outside of the referrals field, which I think sometimes is helpful to do for your team. If we click add fields here, we could maybe add like the family name. Actually, let's do multiple fields. I can do a couple here. Family name. Maybe you would want to add some information about the case. Case type, what do I call it? Case program. Case stage. Let's see if I have case worker, social worker. There we go. So I'll add a couple of fields. And that will kind of sit above. You can totally change the way it looks, but it's very basic. And this is a good time while you're working to go find the field. So if you use that option as we were starting to add a link, I chose to link it to the cover page so I can open it up, kind of see it in action here. Let's see, I think this should have it. Scroll to the sidebar and you can see my new referrals form that Sam made for me for my new table is living here. It's pulling up that information about the case, and obviously they don't have any referrals yet because this is brand new, but I can go ahead and add one. And there we go. And then of course from here, you can edit the way it looks, advanced options, edit and form customizer. But that's a real quick run through on creating a new multi-record table. and then using that standard form setup to build those forms right away. I love doing it. It makes it super fast, and it also relieves the pressure for me. I'm not sure why. I guess I don't feel like I have to do everything right away, because Sam's going to lay this working foundation for me. The forms are all going to link correctly between add, edit, overview, and details, and this container form here. And from there, I can kind of just have fun with it. I can change the way the form looks. I can add this sort of stuff at the top. Yeah, so I'll be sure to add a guide to that multi-record standard form setup. You don't have to feel like you have to remember everything we covered, but it's there as a resource for you. Oh, I have a question. My experience with multiple multi-record sections in a template was that I was restricted from doing it because the template didn't allow for more than one multi-record table in it. Your thoughts? Actually, I'm going to show you a way around that. I had forgotten that templates do restrict you to one multi-record table. So for that, let's go ahead and jump. Oh, sorry, I think I got briefly interrupted there. Let's go ahead and jump to this cheat I wanted to show you, which will help you get around that problem of having more than one multi-record table on a report or a template. So let's go back to that new table that I created under Settings, Tables and Fields. I'll find that referrals table I just made. So we had mentioned before, you can't have more than one multi-record table on reports. Templates can restrict you as well. So for that, a workaround is to create a latest table, which is going to be a working table, but it will only show the most recent entry to the multi-record table. So as we're looking at our new multi-record table we've created, or it can be an existing one in your system, you can go to advanced options again, like we did last time. Click on really advanced options, and you'll see this option that says set up sibling table for current latest record. You can just go ahead and click on it. It's warning me, it's fine. You could feel free to do this. You're not going to break anything, and it can be really helpful. So right away, Sam is asking, what do you consider to be the latest records? Which is great because you don't always sort by the most recent one. You might want to do something a little more complicated. You only want to see the most recent placement type of a certain type. So for my purposes, let's go on that date field. We'll do descending. At this point, you could add other filters. If I were to have created my form a little bit more robustly, I could show only certain services that I referred to. But for right now, date is perfect. You can come back and edit this at any time. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry we got disconnected there. I will make sure that all of it is recorded. So I'm not sure where we got cut off, but I'll go ahead and show you on another table in case you didn't see. So what I did is that I went to a multi-record table that I had created. I'm going to just choose another one so I can show you that option. Let's see. What I did is I went to advanced options, really advanced options, and I clicked this set up sibling table for current latest record. And that created a copy that shows the most recent record in a multi-record table. From there, if you were to go and create a report, you create a new report. I'll just call it report. There we go, great title. We'll choose family as our base. Then we'll see under case, now I have my referrals current latest record. So I can use that one. And I could also choose another another multi-record table like home study. You'll see that there are some that already exist in your system. I think almost everybody has this home study latest table. You might also have latest. You can actually make a report that has lots of these multi-record entries, but it's only going to show you the most recent one. So that's a great workaround if you're needing to show a lot of information across multiple tables, but you feel limited because Sam's saying, hey, you can't choose more than one multi-record table for this. And I see I have another question. One standard multi-record table is not allowed. I think that is correct. So this question is about that option we saw where you were creating a template and you could insert a multi-record section. I think that you can also insert a template report. When we were looking at the difference between that customized multi-record template, I believe that you can also add a report. Or you would have to use that latest table, which might not be what you're needing to see. Let's see if I can get rid of that. Do we have any questions about the latest table? You can use the chat or that process of creating one. If not, then see if this will load back to the report. All right, let's see. What else was I going to talk about? I think that actually covered it. Just sort of the basics of when and why you might need to create a table. You can always get in touch with us too if you have questions about should this be a multi-record table. It almost always is, unless you know that you're just going to do something one time. Like adoptive child preferences is usually a one-time thing for case, whereas placements are obviously happening multiple times. Let's see what else I have. That was it. So I did want to mention that I'm going to post the recording up at our blog, inreachsolutions.com/blog. And I'll also link you to that webinar we did earlier about multi-record templates, and a couple of guides on our new help site that are all about creating and using multi-record templates. And then I did want to mention that we're having another webinar this month. It's another admin webinar. So mics will be on. You can ask questions. It's going to be focusing on user management, just like a couple new tools we have for seeing who's logged in, what permissions they have, how to manage those permissions, and also just understand what sort of features are currently turned on per user for your SAM site. So hopefully you'll come to that. You can go to inreachsolutions.com/events and RSVP. And we have another question here. Let's pull it up. Can you create a multi-record table based on another multi-record table? Let's say I had a home study multi-record table and wanted to put a multi-record case note table. Okay, so it's sort of like, can you put a multi-record table inside of another multi-record table? The answer is yes, you can. People have actually moved the communication table into a case table. They want to see communications per case. In this section, this example, this question, talking about maybe you're doing communications or interviews specific to the home study, you can do that. It would be a little bit complicated as far as the form setup, but not completely undoable. Let's see if I can pull it up. Here's my SAM site. So let's say that I had created, if I can get out of here, I wanted to go back and create a subtable somewhere else. So let's just use the question as an example. Let's say we need to create a specific multi-record table for home study communications, maybe because you have a third-party provider or you just want to really limit the collection of that to your home study. You would do the same thing that I did earlier, which is advanced options, create new table. This time we would nest it under home study, which is under case. Here's our home study. I'm going to go ahead and click there. We call this home study communications. It has multiple records per table. And then from here, you could do that multi-record form setup, but it's nested under the home study. That means every home study record will open up this table and allow you to collect information about it. So from this point on, I would probably use that multi-record form setup, and then I would go to my home study form, which you could easily get to from a family record. Open up home studies and open up the detail of one home study. And then from here, if you were to open up this open form customizer, you can add one of these looking tables for your home study communication. So to the person that's asking this question, which I don't know, but maybe it's Steve, I don't know. No. To the person that's asking this question, definitely write it in to support, and we can give you some more tips. I don't want to get too far into it just because we're almost at time, but yes, it is possible. It can get a little tricky just when you go to nest that new subform on your main form, which would be home study here, but we can totally help you out for that. And if anybody else has questions, you can follow up via support. Questions are free, so you ask away. But certainly if you want to go and RSVP for the user management webinar, we'd love to chat with all of you guys and just make sure that you're feeling supported as admins. There are always great discussions when we have these. We get a lot out of it. Hopefully you guys get a lot out of it too. Yeah, so look for this recording probably in 2 hours just because I'm about to run into another meeting. But I will post that up there along with some more resources. And yeah, we look forward to chatting with all of you again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Bye, everybody.